Hello to the curious and the thoughtful. It's Ellie again. Nice to have you with me. Why do we feel that change is so final that it's almost like we're all going to die? Why is it that it comes down to something that feels really dangerous or final, like death does? And yeah, not all change is good, but some change is really good, even if we can't see it in the moment. Carl Jung, the Swiss psychologist, he used the term individuation. It sounds a lot like individualization, but it's very different. Pretty much polar opposite, actually. Individualization is a bit like thinking that everybody is an island. It's driven by ego, it sells us a story about who we are, and it separates us from one another. Like what happens when you think to yourself, what happens to you has nothing to do with me. Or if it's working for me, it's none of your business. Individualization divides us and it caters to the ego. And as we know, the ego can be very fragile. On the other side of the spectrum though, individuation is not when people feel like islands. It's when they feel like trees in a forest. Young trees, they may all sprout out of the ground looking very much the same. But as we get older, just like trees, we start to grow and branch out in different directions. We might end up leaning this way or that way. By the time we are fully grown, just like fully grown trees, we're all different from one another. But we have one thing in common, and that is we're still all part of the same forest. When change happens, individuation tells us that change is exciting. It's an opportunity for the forest to thrive and for the collective to shed its old ways and build something new. But individualization thinks of change as being really frightening, like the island is sinking into the ocean. Change is an opportunity. But for those who are individualized, yep, I got the right one. We don't know what to expect in the future, and that can be scary. I do remember sitting with a friend one day a few years ago. She was miserable in her relationship, and I'd been staying with her and her partner for a few days. I have to say it was really painful to watch, but when I asked her why she stayed with him, I'll never forget her response. She said, "It's better than being single." She was expressing ego-based individualization, a fear of the unknown, and choosing to live in a reality that wasn't working for her. Her relationship, in Jungian terms, was a lie, and she was clinging to that lie. Individuation is about living in truth. On the individual level, it's about getting to know and accepting your true self. And on the collective level, it's about realizing and recognizing and admitting the truth about the reality that you live in. It's about whipping off that mask that has been lying to you and telling you a story about yourself and your environment that has prevented you from growing and progressing forward in life. Those ego-based stories that trap us in a collective state that isn't really working, that we kind of spend our lives thinking, "Oh, it'll get better, but it never really does." A bit like being in that relationship that really needs to end, except one person is afraid to be single. That's not really a very good reason to be in a relationship, is it? Whether it's a one-to-one relationship or a collective reality. Think about the story that you've been telling yourself that may be acting as a mask or a lie of some kind. You might be recognizing it. You might be kind of denying it to yourself. It's been nagging at you, or you may actively even be trying to shed that mask and sort of grow as a person. Create a name for it. Recognize it for what it is. And so an example might be, you've always been someone who's been the achiever, and it's exhausting. You don't want to be that achiever anymore. So you're trying to shed that story that you've been telling yourself, where being an achiever is a necessity in your life in order to get love from people around you or to feel as though you're a success or something. You could say to yourself, "I'm not losing myself by shedding this persona and this story. I'm losing the mask of being an achiever, and I'm revealing my true self." What this does is it transforms the fear of loss into a sign of growth. It's a really simple thing. It's the way we talk to ourselves that makes all the difference. So let me share an example of my own that many people might recognize. And I do talk about it a lot because I think it's a big part about why this channel is changing. So for me, one of the masks that I think I had to shed as I was growing as a person was the role of the partisan tarot card reader. It was really terrifying to do because it meant, I was probably going to lose subscribers and I was traveling into unknown territory. But the individuation element in me, the good one, not individualization, but the individuation isn't about clinging to a role that isn't working. It's about daring to grow into your own natural whole self, even if it costs you the mask that you've been wearing. I didn't feel like it was really me to be that partisan tarot reader. And it was that old relationship that wasn't working, that I had to let go of. And so instead of clinging to the fear, I chose the truth. And wherever it takes me will be my authentic life emerging. So now it's your turn. If you had one mask that you either had to shed or wanted to shed or are trying to shed that terrified you at first, what could it possibly have been? And were you successful? And what did you find when you let it go? Remember, change is not about losing yourself. It's about losing the lie. If you liked this episode and would like to see more, there is a playlist waiting for you right here. Welcome to the new world. This is Ellie Dreams Down Under. I love knowing you're here, and I'll see you in my dreams.